Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you had a great weekend. It's 11:30 on the East Coast and I think 8:30 on the West Coast. We're going to go ahead and get started. As you've known from previous weeks, instead of doing the roll call, we just ask that you put your name and affiliation, please, in the chat, just out of consideration for time. We're super excited for today. I believe we have a presentation from Alan Davis today. Welcome, Alan. Happy to have you. And I think that we are extending today to talk more about the Regional Technology Hub. So I will pass it to our Executive Director, Matt Bogosian, to get us started. Matt, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Michelle, and good morning, everyone. And for those that are new to the AMCC community, this is, I'm Matt Bogosian, the Executive Director, and this is our 30 minutes each week when manufacturing communities gather, together, share best practices, build trust. We're strengthening our regional manufacturing ecosystems, and as a result, American manufacturing as a whole. So you all know, but the new folks might not, that manufacturing communities arise from a number of federal agency initiatives that have a manufacturing theme. Many of those overlap. Many regions have multiple federal interventions, from going way back to AMCC, but from the Small Business Administration, EDA, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, NSF, and many others. So this is the place where we all work together to try to make sense of it. And like I said, so if you're new to this call, I know we have several new defense manufacturing communities who are going to be joining. If I call you out, please say hello. And maybe some future Monday, you can give us a 10 to 15 minute presentation about what your region is doing. Michelle is right. We have two kinds of calls on these Monday mornings. Sometimes it's a roundtable where we just have a discussion about a key issue, or other days we have a presentation. So this is a presentation day where we are excited to have Alan Davis from Connex Marketplace tell us about his tool and tactics as a BFF of AMCC. We're excited to have Alan here and to learn more about that. At the bottom of the hour, at the end of our session, our normal session today, we are doing an extended session for 30 minutes to invite everyone to participate in that too. That's very unusual. That's not our normal 30-minute thing. This is an additional 30 minutes to discuss how best to respond to EDA's request for information about the Technology Hub program that was a part of the CHIPS and Science Act last year. As I think most folks know, that Tech Hub program was based on much of the good hard work that you all have done over the years, starting back with the IMCP program. And so we had a special session that we recorded last week to kind of go through the 20 some odd questions that EDA is asking. There needs to be responses from not just AMCC, but from regions around the country on how to design that program. There's 22 some odd questions. So anyway, at the bottom of the hour today, we're going to do for 30 minutes, go through and have a conversation about the potential responses to those 22 questions for AMCC, but also for your region. So I invite you to participate in that. And then, so before I, let's see, turn it to Alan for his presentation, I had a conversation with Michael Britt Crane in the Department of Defense. And so he said he'd like to come on and make an announcement today. Michael, are you on? Maybe I don't recognize your number. I'm looking at the participants there. Okay, I guess he's not on. So Michael Britt Crane is at the Department of Defense, and he works closely with the Manufacturing USA Institutes. And he wanted to just update you all because he's been on before and very close with AMCC on helping to develop a network of networks around the federal agency programs. And he's been talking for some time about having a a network of networks convening that DoD would help fund some travel to in DC this summer. And so he wanted to come on and give an update. So I don't see him unless, Michael, you're on. We'll just continue to ping Michael for that update. Maybe I'll put whatever he's going to share in the AMCC update, which I put, which we publish every week. So more to come on that one. Let's see here. So, I see a quick introduction. Let's see, Brian Tucker from Alabama, Defense Manufacturing Community. Brian, you want to quickly say hello?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be on board. I've actually been attending for several weeks now, but I guess I just was a silent attendee, but I'm here. Glad to be a part of it. We're the lead organization for the Alabama Defense Advanced Manufacturing Community here at UAH. And I've gotten a lot out of the sessions that I've attended. Look forward to more. So glad to.
Great. Yeah, glad you're on, Brian. And at some point, it'd be nice to, just hear the outlines of your project on some Monday morning. So that'd be cool. How about Craig Summerall from Mississippi?
Hey, sir, this is Craig Summerall. I'm with Accelerating Mississippi and actually run a Mississippi Ships
I don't have a home number for Craig.
program grant.
Which phone for Craig?
But I've been in this job now. This is my 5th week. So I started on the AMCC calls, I guess 3 weeks ago, under Courtney Taylor. That's my direct boss. So my whole intent for the next 5 years is to build workforce to assist in the shipbuilding defense industry for the state. And I also run a Mississippi Workforce Council.
That's great, Craig. Well, welcome. We're all in this together, my friends. So I'm glad you're participating and looking forward to hearing more about your project in the weeks and months to come. Let's see. How about very quickly, Larry Peterson in Texas?
Hi, everyone. Larry Peterson. I run a foundation called Texas Foundation for Innovative Communities. Our founders were the folks who built Austin out of a sleepy dairy town into the tech hub that it is. I'm kind of coordinating our DMCSP project for UT Austin and the 10 other partners involved, focused on accelerating innovation in microelectronics and semiconductor industries.
Well, welcome, Larry. It's great to have you and looking forward to learning more about that. That's awesome. Well, we can keep going on this, but right now I want to make sure we have plenty of time for our distinguished guest, Alan Davis from Connex Marketplace, who has been an innovator in helping to solve supply chain issues around the United States. So I don't want to steal your thunder, Alan. So let me introduce you, CEO of I5, and talking about the Connex Marketplace. Alan, welcome.
Thanks so much, Matt, and thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it. Many of you on this call I have met or have worked with, and some that I have not yet, and I look forward to. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I really do want to say I love what AMCC has been doing for so very many years. I first listened into AMCC calls back when we were just getting started in Utah, when UAMI was just being formed with Jeff Edwards years ago. And then we've continued our relationship. UAMI is a key strategic partner of ours, and working with Talinda now and others there. And, I see Phil on here. Phil Singerman and I had conversations about this solution years ago, back when he was at NIST and came out to Utah actually for a speaking event, I think is when we first started our conversations. So it's been great. And Matt, I really appreciated getting to know you and to work with you on a number of different things and interact with you on a number of different things over the years. So thank you very much. Today, I'm really just sharing more about a solution for our country than anything else, and hoping that we can, share some things that will help to further connect the ecosystems that all of us are trying to connect right now as it is. I'm going to share just a couple of slides that help to illustrate a few points that I'll share with you. I'm going to keep my remarks to about 10 minutes and then hopefully open up for some Q&A. Make sure that we have plenty of time for questions and some collaboration as well. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Make sure that I get the correct one here. Hopefully you're seeing a PowerPoint presentation.
Looks good.
Okay,
Yes,
terrific.
yeah.
It's always embarrassing when I start presenting and then realize that no one can actually see what I'm seeing. So just jumping in really quick, I want to give you a little bit of history, but not much, enough hopefully to give you a feel for how all this got started. It's been going for about 11 years now, started as an economic development study in the state of Utah. And they were trying to better connect their manufacturing ecosystem with some economic development premises where they wanted to have their large manufacturers source from small, medium-sized manufacturers in the state to keep more jobs and more dollars in the state. What evolved from that was a really unique system that really was aimed at solving sourcing and supply chain challenges, hoping to shorten the supply chains, allowing everyone to source local first, and then be able to expand their searches beyond their local if they're unable to find what they need within that local environment. But first, illuminating that local environment so that you actually know who is there. One of the, I could share dozens of stories around how the light bulbs kind of turned on for everyone. But when we first started, we were helping companies find suppliers that were as close as 300 yards from their own facility that they just didn't know existed. And that has continued over the many years that we've been working on this. And when we started, there wasn't a way for us to easily see our manufacturing capabilities in the United States. In fact, far easier for us to find those capabilities overseas than it was for us to find them locally. We've been reversing that trend now and are delighted to see the progress that we're making. We still have a long way to go. It takes an incredible amount of effort from a lot of people to solve a problem of this magnitude. So we have been building partnerships and relationships over the same amount of time that we've been working on the technology that helps to connect it all together. You'll notice on here the National Association of Manufacturers, who is a key strategic national partner of ours, as well as many partners at the state level, regional level, including MEPs, manufacturing associations, economic development, chambers of commerce, PTACs, and so many others. And many of those partners are actually on the call today. We have a number of state instances. So a couple of things we learned as we were starting is that we can't just solve this with a national solution, and we can't just solve it with a state solution. It actually takes both state level solutions to meet state needs and a national solution that connects them all together if we're going to succeed at actually connecting our entire manufacturing ecosystem in the US. So you'll see a few of those relationships on the slide here. We have about 250 plus now around the country, and that continues to grow all the time. But one of the things that we found is the more strategic relationships that exist within a state that are all connected together, the more effective that state becomes at reaching their manufacturing ecosystem. We also learned that as a general rule, no organization in our country actually had reached to more than about 10% of the manufacturers in their geography or in their ecosystem. And that we needed to be able to help organizations evolve that reach. And the best way to do that is for all of us to lean in together. It's a tremendous amount of effort to reach all the manufacturers, and only by working together will we actually ever reach that goal. I did want to just share a quick view of a state expansion map to give you an idea of some of the effort that we're making around the country. In fact, this map I'm noticing is needs to be updated. We have a few other states that were previously in the pipeline who have now moved into the active pipeline. I think every state now is in our active pipeline in one way or another. We have a number who have moved from the active pipeline into implementing that are also not highlighted on here, and a few more that have moved into the implemented category that have been previously in the implementing stage. So we're thrilled, and we're on track for getting every single state and Puerto Rico operating by the end of 2023. I do want to share just a few reasons why what we have built is truly unique, because I think this is of some critical importance to those who are working on their ecosystems within their own geographies, sectors, or other areas or regions. When we started this, it was such a daunting thought to connect the entire ecosystem together that we knew it was going to take a tremendous amount of effort, both local, state, regional, and national. Well, not both, but all local, state, regional, and national, in order for us to actually bring it together. And so we had to build something different that had never been built before. And I'm going to share just a few of those things that we've done differently that I think will help. From the very beginning, we have been collaborating and working directly with manufacturers. So the system was built to be by and for manufacturers. They asked us to price it at $500 a year for every manufacturer so that every manufacturer in the US could participate. That price would never hold a manufacturer out of participation. Their comment to us was, if there was ever a manufacturer who couldn't come up with $500 a year, that we would find programs to help fund them. We've held that price actually for the last 11 years since we started. They also asked that we would protect their data, meaning that the data not be used for sales and marketing purposes, that we didn't export it and sell it or other things, and that would cause that data to be compromised. And so the manufacturers own their own data. They keep it up to date. They add to it because they feel like we have been very careful with and have protected their data. And many other measures that we go through, which I won't have time to talk about today, in terms of protecting that data, both from cyber attacks as well as from misuse. So the next one is really ensuring that we brought all the manufacturers together. Now, we have about 160,000 manufacturers in the US database today. And we, as I mentioned, have state level focus to help solve state needs, as well as that national focus to help connect it all together. We also, early on, as we were talking about the ideal way to fund the platform, the state in Utah actually said each state should participate in some level. Our MEP partners have been very strategic and important in the development of this. And they actually were the ones who helped us come up with a tiered pricing structure for all the states. So smallest states paying $35,000 a year, the largest states paying $100,000 a year. And what that provides is access, state level access for all manufacturers in their state to be able to operate within their ecosystem. And then if they would like to have national access, it's just the $500 a year for them. Also that we went about building a comprehensive partner network. So when I talk about all those relationships, it's important and vital that we actually all come together and lean in together, which, as I think pretty much everyone understands, has been a very difficult thing for our country to do in recent years, and has been challenging to say the least. But we are so thrilled to see the collaboration and see people set aside differences, political stances, and so many other things to really ensure that we are finally going to put together a solution that meets all of our needs across the country. I'm not going to go much further into the things that we're doing inside the application, but just know that we set out to connect manufacturers to begin with. But also that there was some defense manufacturing community grant dollars and OEA grant dollars and other dollars over the years, primarily through Utah organizations as kind of the founding state for this, that have helped connect manufacturers to workforce, to R&D. We're working on a module right now to connect them to capital, to illuminate the supply chain, illuminate the risks in the supply chain. Help identify where the risks are, how they can mitigate them, and also how to find alternate suppliers when there is a significant risk. So there is no other platform that's ever been built like this in the US, and no one who has ever actually tried to connect the entire manufacturing ecosystem together and keep all that data current, active, and up to date. So it is a monumental undertaking, one which we are very thrilled to report is working and continues to expand and evolve and grow all the time. So I'm just going to share a quick case study from the perspective of connecting the manufacturers together. And then I'm going to pause at that point and we'll do Q&A. If you would like to see any of the actual functionality of the tool and there's time to do it, I may jump in and show some of that as well. But I do want to at least share a quick case study with you, because I think it helps to illuminate how it's helping the manufacturers as well as the partners and the ecosystem and the economy all together. So this one I share from a large manufacturer perspective first is a case study from Northrop Grumman, and I share it with their permission. And then I'll share it from the small manufacturer perspective. So this was a request from Northrop Grumman, a secure facility that they had. They had difficulty during the pandemic in particular, but it's always challenging for them to find new sources of supply. Their request was that we find 16 manufacturing machine shops who could manufacture or mill parts 30 to 80 inches in diameter, who could do welding inside of their shops, who had AS9100 certifications, JCP and ITAR certifications, who could demonstrate their effort toward their CMMC certification, and who were familiar with the FAR and FAR requirements. And their buyers only had an hour a week to interview those companies. So they asked for 1 hour, half-hour interviews each for an hour every Thursday at 10 o'clock, and asked if we could do that for them, which we were very startled by the request, but we were able to come back and say, yes, we think we can. We helped them to post that request in what we call our exchange center, which is where buyers put RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, or other kinds of needs that they might have into an exchange center where they can then notify companies who meet the criteria of what they're looking for. So we send out that notification to the manufacturers or suppliers on Northrop Grumman's behalf. And then we also reached out to that entire partner network and asked them if they knew of anyone in their local area who may be qualified to deliver that. And if so, if they could help them come into the system and respond to Northrop Grumman, they were qualified to deliver it. The result being that we lined up 16 qualified suppliers over 8 weeks, exactly as they had asked. They ended up issuing contracts to 12 of the 16. So we had hit right on exactly what they were asking for. And then they asked us for two things. They asked us, number one, if we would continue to train all their North American buying organizations, because no one had ever been able to help them do that before. And secondarily, that we would continue to look on their behalf, because they needed far more than 16 machine shops. They needed dozens and dozens of these just for that one facility and the project that they were working on. So as we continue to look for them, we found a great little manufacturer in rural Wyoming that had the right capabilities from what we could see. And so we asked Northrop Grumman to interview them, which they did. And as they completed the interview, they asked if we could do something about the AS9100 certification, because that was the only thing they were lacking. We were thrilled to be able to introduce them to the MEP and ask the MEP if they could help them with that AS9100 certification, which they were obviously delighted to do, as that's one of the services that they provide in Wyoming. And in 9 months, they had gotten their AS9100 certification and helped them actually, or we took them back into Northrop Grumman. Northrop Grumman has now issued millions of dollars of contracts to them, which has helped them diversify their business from oil and gas to also aerospace and defense now. So being able to expand their business to serve multiple industries has provided a significant amount of resiliency to this company as well, through the ups and downs of those disparate industries. So it's been very, very effective at kind of highlighting how this helps a large manufacturer, small manufacturer. And then the last part of this case study is that this small manufacturer in Wyoming was somehow connected to the governor in Wyoming, and called the governor and asked why they didn't have Connex in Wyoming. And the governor called the MEP and asked them why they didn't have Connex in Wyoming. And they indicated they needed a little bit of funding so they could have a state level platform. The governor was delighted to offer that funding and launched Connex Wyoming from this little manufacturer's facility in Sheridan on September 30th. So it really helped to illustrate also how it helps the partners that are operating in the ecosystem, how it helps the economy, and really how it helps both at the state and national level. So hopefully that gives you a feel for some of the base functionality of the application, how it's benefiting and helping manufacturers. And if we have an opportunity, I'll be delighted to show you some of the other functionality around workforce, R&D, supply chain visualization, risk assessment, and all those other areas. But for right now, I'm just going to pause and ask, what questions do you have?
Hey, Alan, this is Matt. I was wondering if maybe Phil Singerman, you're still on, so we're lucky enough to have Phil Singerman as a senior advisor on, to AMCC across the board. For those of you that don't know Phil, he's in very important policy positions at NIST and also at EDA. And has made a strong argument about our inabilities to tackle some of these supply chain issues. Phil, from your perspective, can you describe the importance of the work of Connex as one example of a platform that we need in this country?
Yeah, I'll try and do this in 30 seconds. So first of all, my no longer affiliated with EDA and NIST. I'm a former NISTer and EDA. But as Alan mentioned, I met him and his organization maybe as many as 5 years ago in Utah. Like many of you on this call, I've been involved with numerous attempts over the years to create online manufacturing matchmaking services. And at least my experience has been, they've all been unsuccessful. It's a very challenging business model. And I was extremely impressed by Alan's program, and particularly his connection to the National Association of Manufacturers, with whom we met subsequently in Washington. And what I've been so impressed by is that Alan has developed, and his team have developed, a sustainable model of several years, and have been able to generate support from state governments to provide this service. So I think it's I'm very optimistic about this for the whole community. It's the issue of supply chain, domestic content is a huge issue now. I sent a note around in the chat about that. So I'm not a paid shill for Alan. I just think for the entire community, it's something worth looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Alan, there's a question by Dean Peckham in the chat there about how do regional partners access or utilize Connex on behalf of their local manufacturers?
Yeah, that's a terrific question. And Dean, if you will, the best way is just to reach out to us so that we can look to see if it's already operating in your region, and if so, in what areas within your region, and how we can best align you and connect you to what may already be in existence. And if there isn't anything, then we'll work with you to figure out how we best stand it up in that region. So terrific question. And Matt, I will just take 30 seconds to stand on a soapbox. I've tried to maybe just kind of lay out history and some of what we've been doing, but I will say this, there's often conversation around, this is a platform, and should we be just kind of promoting a single platform in the US? And there's those questions come up regularly. And I will just say this, we have struggled as a country. And in fact, never since World War II have we collaborated well enough to really be effective at accelerating our growth in manufacturing as well as we did then. Because back then we had collaboration between industry, academia, and government. And that has since dissipated over the years. We're now at a critical inflection point for our country. And once again, we find ourselves in a position where we have to figure out how to come together in order to solve the problems. It's why I love what you're doing at AMCC. It's why I love those who are working to try to build that collaboration around our country. This is not about a platform. This is about ensuring that we all come together to really truly connect those resources that are vital to not just our national security, but to our day-to-day operational excellence and survival, even as we've found some of the serious challenges that we're having in our supply chains. So I hope that that message above and everything else comes through clearly, is that we're truly on a mission to connect it all together because it is of vital importance to our country.
That's for sure, Alan. That's good timing too. Thank you very much for your presentation. Alan's contact info is in the chat. David, our operations director, David Van Sicklen, has recorded this. This will be put up on our website, and we link it also in our weekly AMCC update so that you can, share this with your colleagues in your own networks, like we do all of our calls, right? And we're an open source platform for this kind of networking and sharing of information. So delighted. Thank you again, Alan, and thank you everyone for being on the call. We are going to stay on this call. Like I said, I think I said bottom of the hour, but it's the top of the hour, when we're going to do a 30-minute session about the Tech Hub program and the response to the request for information on what the component parts of that will be. So I'll take just a minute break and then start up with that. And again, thank you, Alan. Thanks for everyone being on the call. A special thank you to all the new participants. We want to hear from you going forward. Welcome, and we'll talk to you next week.